go. Goodbye, baby. You know I hate to see you go. Gonna leave you down there, boy. Oh, down by the Gulf of Mexico. Sound check.
How much was that? How much of that was extemporaneous, and how much was that?
I just made it up.
Right on the fly. Pretty cool.
It's like an old art, I guess, is what I learned from those old blues guys. You know what I mean? And from painting, you know? It's like you get into just kind of a zone and you just like let it flow and you trust it. You don't think.
I had a feeling that the two were related.
You're thinking, but you're thinking ahead of yourself a little bit with certain rhymes or whatever structure you're doing, and then whatever you're trying to talk about.
Sure.
But not much. You're trying to stay away from defining where it's going to go.
Right.
It's like jazz improvisation.
Right. Well, hey everybody. Good evening and welcome to Asheville Guitar Bar. Music to your ears. I'm your host, Bill Kopp, and once again, we're together to hang out and talk about and listen to and appreciate music. And my very special guest this evening is Jody Carroll.
Hey, Bill.
Thanks. I'm glad to have you here this evening.
Happy to be here.
Great. And we're playing a little bit as we came in. Tell me about the music that inspired you when you were a young man growing up just south of Sacramento.
Yeah, I grew up in the San Joaquin Delta area there, the inland of Frisco out there in the farm country. But what I was listening to was rock and roll, of course, just the standard. When I was real young, it was just the latter half of 70s pop music probably, right? And then I got propelled into the 80s and the rock became such a big thing. And as we know, guitar was like king.
Yes.
So I grew up in a little farming town, so a lot of Hispanic folks around the area, and I would be able to see mariachi players down at the restaurants a lot. And that got me, because I had seen, guitar player. I grew up, seeing Grand Ole Opry and Hee Haw, and just really focusing on those guys a lot.
Sure.
And I didn't know why. And my dad and mom always had music, country and soul music and things like that going. But I saw those mariachi players, and they were like, wham, with that right hand, right? They're just like,
Take me back to the country, Lord, when nobody's around. Go back to the country, where nobody's around. Because the sound of the city, baby, sure get me down. Well, I'm going out there, Lord, I'm leaving here soon. Yeah, when I got there, people, I know what I'm gonna do. I go way up high on that old dirt road, look down in the valley to my far country home. Take me back to the country, you don't know right around. Go back to the country, you're nobody around. Cause the sound of the city, baby, sure hit me down. Well, I'm standing on that mountain range, watching the sun go down. Made me feel just like I can never go back to town. But if you stay too long, like old Wild Bill, you'll be sitting pretty dreaming way up on the hill. Take me back to the country, there are nobody's around. country, yeah. Well, nobody around. 'Cause the sound of the city, baby, sure hit me down. It don't get me down. Yeah. Well, way back in the woods, there's a cabin where we can go. Way back in those old shady hollows, Lord, where nobody goes. Now we can take our sweet time, so there ain't no use in trying to tell me you don't wanna go with me back to the country. Take me back to the country. Lord, nobody around. Oh, back to the country. Oh, nobody around. 'Cause the sound of the city, baby, oh, sound of the city, baby, so getting me down, getting me down.
Well, thank you, folks. That's the title song of one of my albums, Back to the Country.
That worked in the rock and roll context.
It was just the pure aggression that I got from seeing, that type of music. I, liked from, I was in the Bay Area metal scene and had a band out of high school for years, and we would just play all the parties and go into the Bay Area and see all the concerts of the time. So it's something about that, people say, oh, you listen to all that hard rock and stuff. And well, yeah, I also listen to Zeppelin and Sabbath and everything else. And those are all blues-based bands, and it all this music that I was hearing, I didn't know it had roots in blues.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't know it, because no one had ever pointed that out to me before.
So is your approach to the acoustic guitar, whether you're playing slide or standard acoustic, or even open tuning, is it radically or fundamentally different from the way you approach playing the electric guitar when you did that?
Yeah, I used to play electric a lot. I have a band I keep back in Portland, and I'll probably have to pick up the guitar electric, as they say, even though this is electrified too.
Sure.
But no, I play it the same way. I used to play with just the standard method, which is with a pick and nothing else. But now I combine it together in a kind of a combination of the two. So you can pick with a thumb pick, and then I pick with my two fingers. Yeah.
So steel guitar was the first guitar that you actually started to play, right?
Well, my dad used to play back in the day of the 50s, probably when he was young, and I have recordings of him playing that stuff. And my grandfather used to play. They come from the hills of Oklahoma and were, traveled out to California back in the Dust Bowl time, and they all played. I didn't know that until I found that steel guitar up in the attic. He had stopped playing it, and that was the first time I'd ever fooled around with, say, a slide, and of course it was probably tuned to a certain sort of tuning, and I didn't know it at the time, but that completely focused me later in life in terms of the modal quality and the possibilities of open tuning.
Yeah, because most people, that's not what they start with. They don't start with open tuning. They don't start with slides, certainly.
Yeah, and they should.
Yeah?
I wish somebody would have done that right off the bat, was just like put me in an open D tuning or something and just let me figure that out. It's a lot different than, say, the Western system of thought,
Sure.
Yeah.
With the teenage boys learning to play bar chords.
Yeah, and chords in general. It's
Yeah.
very ominous,
Yes.
at that point, and it's very structured and, bop, 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 as opposed to liquid and fluid. And So that's more later on when I studied Indian music and slide guitar and stuff like that. The modal improvisational possibilities of that soundscape you get from an open tuning are very different than the Western, standard sense of
They
things.
are,
Yeah,
yeah.
the 1-4-5s.
When you did study with Indian musicians, did you find any kind of commonality between that sort of indigenous sort of music and the rural primitive kind of music from the Americas?
I did, I don't know where that is. It's because it's a microtonal sort of thing you have to get into with slide, meaning
Right.
if folks are not familiar with that, it means it's almost like you don't have frets. You're playing, you can even play the notes in between the notes and the notes, so it's more of it's a vocal thing.
Yes.
Is what I found out. Only, I've realized that I like to sing as much as I like to make those kind of sounds on my guitar. So you're trying to imitate the human voice. That's what it all comes
okay.
down to.
Yes.
The blah, and what does that sound like? I mean, that just alone sounds like some Indian musician
Yep.
or something. So I happened into hanging out with Ravi Shankar's school down in LA and his prime students, and it just felt like I was home, and I don't know why. But the blues, man, blues bug takes you hard if you let it. I first heard the blues. I don't know when I first heard the blues, but I remember the one act that got to me was ZZ Top. I heard the blues in that thing. I heard LaGrange or something, and I was like, "Ooh, wow, what's that about?" Another person I got into back then because he was so fiery and electric was Johnny Winter. And then you fast forward again, one of my stories about 10 years later, I'm on tour with him, and you apply yourself, son, and you will get, watch out what you ask for. So I opened some shows for him, and then I was out in the alleyway, and they're up in their bus, and the guitar player does one of these to me, and I go over to the door, and he proceeds to kick everybody out of the bus so that I could be alone with Johnny. I walk in, all of a sudden we're just completely alone, just me and him, and he's sitting there back not saying nothing with his hat with a giant rattlesnake on it, and these glowing albino eyes just staring at me, and I got to sit there and play and talk with him. That was pretty special. So he got me into this stuff, and kind of showed me that there's a lot of improvisation you can have with it. And I'm sure he used to do this song too. It's called the Catfish Blues. You got various versions of it, and Muddy Waters was not the first. Robert Petway was, and there are other sort of songs that were loosely dealing with the same sort of structure. Catfish, swimming way down in the sea. I have all you people sitting out of line for me, sitting out of line for me. The river always whiskey, and I was a diving duck. I dived down the bottom, baby, Lord, I'd never come up. Oh, I'd never come back. Oh, I'd never come back.
see my hours, I will see my days. One of these mornings, Lord, gonna change my ways. Oh, baby, change my low down way, change my low down, change my low down way. Ain't no heaven, ain't no hell. Where I gonna die, Lord, nobody can tell. Nobody, nobody, Lord, can tell. Highway 61, ooh, Lord, well, it's the longest road this poor boy knows. Runs all the way from Portland, Oregon, north, Gulf of Mexico. Over me, over I wish I was a catfish swimming way down in the sea. I'd have all you people sitting out a line for me, line for me, line for me, sitting out a line for
There you go. There you go. That's one of the oldest tunes, I guess, in terms of the blues canon. Who doesn't want to be a catfish? I mean, it's universal.
So backing up a little bit, how do you think that your early days in a rural setting, working on the family farm and such, how do you think that informed your lyrical perspective?
I think I grew up as an artist in general. I was not trained as a musician. I had to learn that myself, because I wasn't really supported in that region for my family so much. I think they associated that with others in my family who had come before, and maybe it wasn't the most positive thing. So I was more of an artist illustrator from very young, and trying to create pictures and of things that were interesting. And so being in nature is really the answer to that.
Okay.
Nature is something, and it sounds cliche, but if you grow up in the city, your music's going to be different than if you grow up in a rural setting.
Certainly.
Plain and simple. So it's, the soundscape of being in big, wide open places and having solitude and being around the changes of things, that it has an impact on how you react aesthetically.
Do you think that your immersion in the metal scene and things like that for a period, does that find its way into what you do at all? Or is that something you've sort of intentionally or
I think it
otherwise
does.
left
It's
behind?
like with the blues, for instance, when I heard, one Christmas, I don't know what year that was, but I got the new Ozzy album and the new Robert Johnson collection. And I was like, wow, this is really crazy. It's like, hell and hell.
Exactly.
I didn't know which way to go. And that, I'd listen to, that's the segue to changing from that sort of music. I was coming away from, I guess, rock has aggression to it. Of course, it's something maybe the young respond to.
Right.
More so than, when you get older or something. There's something about that. It's a power,
Yes.
And the greatest of the Delta blues guys like Son House and Robert Johnson, and even to the soft ethereal of Skip James, it's got this wham thing to it, you know, and that's what I responded to. With blues, you can just that sounds like rock to me.
Yeah.
And when I heard Robert Johnson playing, I could hear it, and I could hear, you know, the anarchy and chaos that he was, you know, because of his life, because the way he had, you know, he was not in the city, he was, yet he was, you know, about the city sound. He had a freshness there, and that's what we all respond to with that guy. And,
Right.
you know, there's others, like a Son House, for instance. I don't think anybody's any heavier than Son House. I mean, he taught Robert Johnson how to play, you know, so in a lot of ways. So Son House was the beginning of so much, you know. And you got Charlie Patton and those guys before that. They had this, I don't know what else to say other than this serious, aggressive abandon and improvisation, you know, that I always wanted from rock, you know. So it made sense. One day I was going to see Metallica and Armored Saint in San Francisco, and it was like I was just coming out of the, you know, my band was kind of, you know, getting a little older. We graduated at that point 1 year, and we're just not knowing what to do. And we went to go see these guys, and we had been a part of that scene forever. And I just remember I met the singer from Metallica, and he was a total jerk. And I had met him before, and he was a jerk. And I was like, man, these guys are hard, you know. And so then there was some guy opening for him, and his name was John Campbell. Campbell. He was a long-haired, crazy blues man from Texas, and he wore all black leather and had like feathers in his hair or whatever he was doing. And I remember being transfixed by that guy. And you can look that guy up. He was serious, you know. He was like a cross between, you know, Lightning Hopkins and, you know, Hound Dog Taylor or something, you know. And
Wow.
And he's sitting there opening up for those guys, and I'd never heard something like that. And that's when somewhere about that point, and a little bit later, I got into blues more, and so I got into electric blues. So I got into the Kings, the Albert King and Freddie Kings, and B.B. Kings, and Albert Collins, and, you know, it's just like got into this world that spawned Stevie Ray Vaughan, for instance, at about 88, 89. And I remember when he died, Stevie, I was like, there's just no reason that I didn't see a particular reason to continue that sort of, you know, stuff. And that more, that sort of blues didn't seem deep enough for me, I guess, in some way, because at that point I had listened to this guy named Robert Johnson enough where I was like, oh, there's this whole other world back there.
Yeah.
You know, this whole other world. So I sold all my electric stuff and got in my time machine, and I went back to 1926, you know,
Wow.
and just stayed there for a long time.
Well, it seems like especially the acoustic blues, the heaviness from that comes from a lived-in sort of character, where in rock and roll it comes from pent-up teenage angst.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know, so
exactly.
they're similar on the surface, but they're coming from different places.
Yeah, and it's like
Deeper in the blues,
I'm sure I have plenty of angst in myself at my age, but it is a different thing now. It's more of this. Yeah, I don't know. I found the same sound up in these mountains, so you know, when I got up here, in terms of when I say got up here, I mean with my ears, I started listening to more rural music and folk music,
Yeah.
quote unquote, you know, and stuff from the hills around here, and I sensed the same thing, and it wasn't based on aggression. It's a seriousness of life. It's the truth of life, you know, like life's not pretty all the time, you know, life's hard, and that's what blues is. You know, blues is truth. You know, they used to not be able to go to church if they sang the blues at night, because they didn't want to. You know, I don't want to hear about your, you know, relationship woes. I don't want to hear about your existential problems.
Right.
You know? Blues is the avenue of expressing life.
Yes.
So, and blues is not just to be found down in the low country. You know, it's in the same sort of sentiment is found in mountain music, and It's the woes of life.
Right.
you
It
know,
may be
it's
expressed
truth.
subtly differently musically,
Yeah.
but it's the same, comes from the same
It might come
place.
through a story, a more
Yeah.
literal story or something, but it's still there's this the edge of life, I guess, that sharpness of life I'm interested in.
So I'm gonna play y'all a song called "The Dead Man's Hand." This is about Wild Bill Hickok's immortal death. It's a positive song. It's a life lesson. Wild Bill went to Deadwood. Yeah, he took his 44. Told his friends he's gonna die there. He was standing at death's door. Standing at death's door. Yeah, the door flew open slowly. He'd walk the streets at night, looking for a gunfight, maybe red dirt gunfight now. Some red dirt gunfight. Cause back when he was young, folks from all around, they would fear his name every time he came to town. Oh, he went to their town. Up here in Deadwood, everybody's got the toll. And if the devil don't want you, man, you have no place left to go. No place left to go. Well, for many miles and days, yeah, he spun down into a haze, looking for an easy way to die before his day. Die before his day. Yeah, I came here to find a little money, little gold from these dry lands. That's when I saw Wild Bill walking the streets slow at hand. You know I'm gonna kill that man. Yeah, the number 10 saloon, it was open way too soon. His back turned to the door and he failed to turn around. Aces and eights fell down. Well, Wild Bill went to Deadwood, took his 44, told his friends he's gonna die there. He was standing at death's door. Oh, yeah, yeah. Standing at death's door. At death's door. Standing at death's door. At death's door.
There you go. Thank you so much. Yeah, I was, if you've ever not been to Cody, Wyoming, it's just an interesting place and all that stuff that went on. Deadwood, of course, but old America, the old glorious weird America that we seem to have almost lost. Maybe we still got it. I think we still have the string. And after the pandemic, we all got to pull really hard because these sort of things like wars and stuff propel us into the future, and we forget about the past a lot of times. And the amount of music that just happened in the last 100 years in this country, right, is just immense. We're at kind of a little bit of a lullish period, but there seems to be like a folk boom going on, all these musicians and artists that were locked away in their little rooms. I think we all got a lot of time to figure things out, and I think it's going to lead to a lot of good stuff. Mark my words.
Wild Bill went to Deadwood. Yeah, he took his 44. Told his friends he's gonna die there. He was standing at death's door. Standing at death's door. Yeah, the door flew open slowly. He'd walk the streets at night, looking for a gunfight, maybe red dirt gunfight now. Some red dirt gunfight. 'Cause back when he was young, folks from all around, they would fear his name every time he came to town. Oh, he went to their town. Up here in Deadwood, everybody's got the toll. And if the devil don't want you, man, you have no place left to go. No place left to go. Well, for many miles and days, yeah, you spun down into a haze, looking for an easy way to die before his day. Die before his day. Yeah, I came here to find a little money, little gold from these dry lands. That's when I saw Wild Bill walking the streets slow at hand. You know I'm gonna kill that man. Yeah, the number 10 saloon, it was open way too soon. His back turned to the door and he failed to turn around. Aces and eights fell down. Well, Wild Bill went to Deadwood, took his 44, told his friends he's gonna die there. He was standing at death's door. Oh, yeah, yeah. Standing at death's door. At death's door. Standing at death's door. At death's door.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. Yeah, I was, if you've ever not been to Cody, Wyoming, it's just an interesting place and all that stuff that went on. Deadwood, of course, but old America, the old glorious weird America that we seem to have almost lost. Maybe we still got it. I think we still have the string. And after the pandemic, we all got to pull really hard because these sort of things like wars and stuff propel us into the future, and we forget about the past a lot of times. And the amount of music that just happened in the last 100 years in this country, right, is just immense. We're at kind of a little bit of a lullish period, but there seems to be like a folk boom going on, all these musicians and artists that were locked away in their little rooms. I think we all got a lot of time to figure things out, and I think it's going to lead to a lot of good stuff. Mark my words.
The Harry Smith anthology of American folk music, that's something that had a fairly profound impact on you. How did you stumble across that initially, and what did it and does it mean to you?
the the lead up to that is I got hip to when I got hip to these Delta blues guys. They all were refound in '64.
Yeah.
A lot of them, and everybody thought that world was dead. They were still alive, you know. And Son House and Skip James and Fred McDowell and John Hurt and Booker White, and they all started coming out of the woods at 80-something years old, and they're like, oh yeah, I could play
Getting gigs,
and they were still damn good, man. And it was when I heard those recordings, that like I couldn't believe it. It was like religion. I remember I left my job that day. I did on my lunch hour and didn't come back, and I just went and just dove into this world of. Something happened at that Newport 64, 65. You also got the revolution of Dylan and everything else happening at the exact same time on the stage over there. Then you have Son House, the guy who taught Robert Johnson, on the other stage. You know, it's like big things happen there. And that happened only because Harry Smith. It happened there were lots of folk compilations, but folk music that, say, I was still hearing when I was growing up was like Burl Ives.
the white folk.
Yeah, the mamas and not the mamas, papas, but
Weavers.
the Weaver stuff and like the sing along stuff, kumbayas, and you hear that. I was like, that's folk music, and I think a lot of people back then realized that too, right? Because then these collections would come out, and you'd get whispers of these old songs.
Yeah.
But Harry Smith is interesting because he was a crazy eccentric artist. He was a concept artist, so everything he did was concept art. Even putting together this collection of stuff.
Right.
He did it for a reason. He put it in a certain order of meaning. Like song 1 would relate to song 5, and song 5 was at 15. And the narratives would weave together. So he put it together like a painting. And what he said he wanted to do was cause a social change. And he said he wanted to do it with music because he knew everybody had forgotten about the whole past, the big past.
Right.
Old weird America, as it's called. It's like that. It's that old place pre-war is what it is. So the war screwed everything up. Everybody went to the city. Everything became more, homogenized. And so country style music, the rural music of the folk just got left behind.
Yeah.
And so he said, no, you got to go back and hear Doc Boggs in 1927 play country blues. It'll warp your mind. So all these young so-called, beatnik folkies heard that, Dylan's and that and stuff. And so that did create the change because it created this wave of the folk boom that came in 64, 65.
It seeped into the consciousness.
It did. It got out and everybody was listening to that compilation and others and stuff. But Harry knew what he was doing. And when he got a Grammy at the end, he said, I got to live to see my dream come true. And he said that, he was a strange guy. You'd have to look into him. He was an alchemist and a collector of Russian painted eggs and a cultist. And,
oh, wow.
It got crazy. I think even his followers ingested his ashes when he died.
That's nuts.
Yeah. But he's from Portland, Oregon.
Ah.
Oh, that tells it all.
Yeah. I didn't know that, and I'm sitting there doing the clubs in Portland for so many years, and then I find all that, out.
Wow. So how about Robert Johnson? Do you remember the first time? Because there's only about 2 LPs worth of recordings of him. When do you remember you first heard it?
They put a box set out, and I want to say '86 or something.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, so the first one they put out in the late '60s or something.
Those are the ones I've got.
The Clapton heard and all them, but it wasn't all of the stuff.
Right.
So that stuff came out on this box set, and that's what led to, there was a folk boom in the mid '90s, in terms of country blues came up real quick. It's a reaction from that, We all heard that. We all got, the rock albums of the day and
Recognize the songs.
And heard of this guy named Robert Johnson, so.
Right. Do you remember the first Robert Johnson tune that you heard?
Yeah, it was Son House playing Preaching Blues. It's the same song, that he would play, and but life is weird because fast forward about 15 years, and then I was on tour with Robert Johnson's partner. And listening to him at 95 tell me things about him dying and stuff, you know.
Wow.
And it's a strange how life does things. I also went, you know, fast forwarding, went to art school in LA, and then I got out and went and worked at a mural company, and all of a sudden they start sending me to Mississippi. And I'm painting on casinos in Tunica, Mississippi.
Oh, wow.
That's where Robert lived. That's where we didn't know that for sure. We didn't know it then.
Okay.
It just kind of, his whole life has just come out. Gail Dean Wardlow wrote a great book
Yes.
about it. But other than that, I didn't know that. He was staying there and he was staying up in Memphis. But I was painting on those murals down in Tunica and just woodshedding on the blues, you know. But I wouldn't know that I'd be on tour with his, you know, his partner.
Wow. Is there a particular song of his that especially resonates with you?
Yeah, I don't really do much Robert stuff on purpose. You know, it's, you know, his style is.
I got a kind-hearted woman, do anything's world for me. I got a kind-hearted woman, do anything in this world for me. But these evil-hearted women, oh, they will not let me be. I cried all last night, all the night before. No, I cried all last night, cried all night last before. Yeah, no right, baby. Lord, lock me out from my door.
That's his style.
Very much so. Yeah.
So, you know, he's famous for bringing that in. You know, we're all used to that.
Right.
I hate that stuff. You know, you know what I mean? I grew up hearing that, and then I'm like, yeah, I like it when Robert does it.
Well,
but
yeah, you heard it because everyone else did it afterwards.
But
It
he's the
seems
one-
a cliche, but
he
not
made,
when he did it.
when he was the first one to go, boom, 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 boom.
Right.
You know, and that was pretty hot stuff back then.
Still is. Yes. So, reading about you, I've stumbled across various accounts that say that you're from the Pacific Northwest, you're from Alabama, you're from Asheville, and a few other places, and now we know you're actually from south of Sacramento. Would
Yeah.
you consider yourself an itinerant musician?
Yeah.
And if so, what draws you to that lifestyle?
A bad divorce and, you know, life and a woman. And a thrill of adventure to figure out this country. Whew. Sunhouse taught Robert Johnson how to play, so here's a little bit of a Robert Johnson tune. And I'm working my way back home. Working my way back home. Working my way back home to you on that poor island road. Last fair deal gone down. Last fair deal gone down.
fair deal. On down, my girl, on that old Port Island Road. That Island Road. Out there, don't you cry this time. Out there, don't you cry this time. You cry about a nickel, baby. You cry about a dime, but ain't no other my money can buy. No, my money can't buy. Yeah, my money can't buy. Yeah, my money can't buy. Yeah, I like that way you do. Oh, like the way you do. Like the way you do, my girl, on that Port Island Road. Yeah, on that Port Island Road. On that. Yeah, so I'm working my way back home. Working my way back home. Well, I'm working my way back home to you, baby, on that Gulfport Island Road. On the Island Road. Well. There's a term called country blues, and there were a lot of banjo pickers up in the hills of Kentucky and Tennessee and around here, of course, that play the heck out of banjos. And it wasn't bluegrass. There was no such thing. Yeah, bluegrass didn't come out till about 1940. You know, when Bill Monroe called his band the Bluegrass Boys. Up until then, it was just folk music. But the record labels would get hold of people like Doc Boggs and Clarence Ashley from up there in Deep Gap. And they'd call them country blues. Let me render a little bit of this song from Doc Boggs. He was a Kentucky, I think it was Kentucky. My mind's a little filled with the beautiful air of Asheville. The story is he didn't even own a banjo, and they were having a talent contest. They used to have a lot of these scouts that would roam around these parts and come to find folks that were playing the old indigenous folk music, right, to bring it out again. Towards the end of the 20s, it got really big. The market kind of opened up real quick, so a lot of the stuff that was hidden around here for 100 years plus got put out. Same with up there. They found him. He came down. He borrowed a banjo, and then the rest is history. They flew him to New York, and this one's see a little bit of this country blues is what it's called. People, well, I have my money left to spend, for tomorrow might be Monday, and I neither have a dollar nor a friend. When I had plenty of money, good people, my friends were all around. Yeah, but now my pocketbook is empty. Oh, none of them left standing around. 'Cause down in the bottom of the whiskey glass, oh, that's where lurking devil dwells. It'll burn worse to drink it down, send you quickly down, burning hell, burn hell. All around the jailhouse I'm crying, good people, $40 won't pay my fine. Corn liquor has surrounded my body, oh boy, and that sweet woman's forever on my mind. The last time I saw my good woman, good people, she had a wine glass in her hand. Yeah, she was drinking down her trouble with a low down sorry man. So when I am dead and buried, oh, my face turned up to the sun, I want all you people to gather in close and think about the way you've done. Yeah, and think about the way you have done. And think about the way you have done.
Thank you, folks. Well, I guess I'll do another one. Thank you. Sorry, what? This one's about a dog, a whole bunch of dogs. They all jumped in the mud together in my mind, and they became the bog dog. So, this is it. This is my big hit. I'm big in Japan. I brought my old banjo there, you know. And I just set it down when I went to Japan. I'd sit it down on the stand. Before I know it, there'd be about 10 of them folks all around it. And they'd all be doing the same thing. Oh, 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 what is it? Oh, this is a banjo. Oh, really old. Oh. And I have an album from Tokyo and various places in Japan, if you want to check that out, folks. I have a lot of albums out on jodycarroll.com, okay? And they could be digitally brought onto your phone like that Willy Wonka scene, you know, where the and it just magically goes from somewhere on a mountain down to your little device. You could just crank it up in your car or something. No cassettes yet. I'm trying to get some cassettes made. That'd be so cool to hear it like reversing. The old Bog Dog Blues. This is one origin in the Delta country of California, down on the San Joaquin Delta. The Sacramento and the Old River and the San Joaquin River, and they all plow down into this beautiful farmland country. And so my dogs would be running all the time, free range dogs.
dog. Oh, that dog was so good to me. I had a bog dog, and oh, that dog was so good to me. Came up from the swamp, here it comes. Here running, jumping, happy and free. Yeah, he was a good old friend of mine. It's only that dog knew just how to be. Golden apparition, lazy dog on fire, weaving through them trees. He's a hunter like no other, little tired rabbits running through them cottonwood trees. Finds me when he needs me, only leave me when he please. But he's a good old dog. I had a bald dog, so good to me. Yeah, I had a bald dog, people. Oh, that muddy dog was so good to me. Came up from the swamp, here comes the running, jumping dog, so free. Yeah, he was a good old friend of mine. It's only that dog knew just how to be. Digging down to China for a bone, bringing back home long before supper time. Swimming in the creek like it grew a gill, bring that frog back to bear it down his heel. Watch me when I spark my evening coal, gonna chew my boots down to my soul. 'Cause he's a good old dog. I had a bog dog. Oh, that dog's so good to me. I had a bog dog, you know that old money dog was so good to me. Came up from the swamp, here he comes, running, jumping, happy and free. Yeah, he was a good old friend of mine. It's only that dog knew just how to be. Jerry stayed too long in a field, left farmers poisoned wells, left for the raccoons, crows, and all their buddies. Not for my dog, no. Gonna bury him in a hole in the hill, so he can chew on them bones all day long. Yeah, had a bald dog. Well, that dog so good to me. I had a bog dog, people that money dogs, so good to me. Came up from the swamp, here comes running, jumping, happy and free. Yeah, he was a good old friend of mine. It's only a good old friend of mine. There's only that dog, he knew just how to be. Yeah. That's the end of it.
So you said that part of your motivation for getting out and traveling was to sort of figure the country out and figure things out. Any conclusions?
No. No, but it was more, I've always been on this quest to understand these people that influenced me. And, like when I got to hang with Robert Johnson's partner, Honey Boy Edwards, for when we were traveling, I get to go to and find Woody Guthrie's childhood home and find the foundation that his dad made, hidden under the weeds and stuff that no one's taking care of. Wow. And I knew what happened there. I know the story of his family and everything. And then I found the house in Portland where he lived with his family and wrote, all the WPA songs that they don't have even a plaque next to, getting to Nashville and, seeing John Hartford's grave, and Johnny Cash and June and, just things like that. It's an homage to the past to kind of try to figure out, what they're about, because we're all on the same sort of quest, I guess.
Sure.
Well, good morning, Captain. Well, good morning, son. Do you need that new Skinner? Down on you might run. Oh, well, hey, Mr. White Boy, want to bring water out? Yeah, if you don't like your job, boy, you can lay that bucket on down. You're late. Well, I'm alone, I'm Skinner, California. I can make any mule listen, boy. I won't draw your pay. No. I'm going down south, see my baby there. Yeah, I'm going down south, gonna see my love baby there. Oh, that sweet little smile and that long curly brown hair. Well, good morning, Captain. Good morning, son. You need that new Skinner. Oh, now you might run. Well,
In your travels, you ended up in Asheville, and you were here for a time, as you said, a year plus. What brought you here?
This song. What brought me here? Hurricane Matthew drove me up here, but a while back, it was on the Harry Smith anthology as the greatest of the American songs in my mind, I guess because of the simplicity of it. And it is a blues, like I was saying, meaning the lyric structure is the cuckoo bird. So this town, for instance, brought me up because of Jimmy Rogers, and Clarence Ashley and Doc Watson, and Jimmy Rogers recorded his first air
downtown.
Yeah, down at the Wedge building, whatever they call it, the Flatiron building.
Yeah.
And Bill Monroe started there too, up in that radio station. So there's and Bascom Lamar Lunsford's, it's the oldest folk festival in the country started here.
Right.
that stuff. I know of those guys from the Harry Smith collection. So that's real. And when I got here, it was like coming to church.
Wow.
You know? So that song "Cuckoo," for instance, is like, I mean, I play it all the time, and I don't. It's just a point of expression almost, you know, because I don't do it like Clarence did. I was listening to some folks play it at Merlefest the other day, and I just do it how I do it. So it came over here from Scotland, England, somewhere, and just sat in these hills for so long. And it's just an older sort of tune, and no one really knows, for instance, what it's really about. The cuckoo bird symbolizes some sort of turn of the seasons, also as an unfaithful lover. You know, the cuckoo bird comes and takes over other birds' nests, so it's an opportunist. It's very lazy, but very smart. You know, it's like all these sort of things that are built into it. Songs from America, and they first found it up here. A man named Clarence Ashley back about 1927 put it down. He was living up there near Boone, up in Deep Gap. It's called the Cuckoo Bird. She's a pretty bird. Yeah, she warbles every time she flies, but she never a cuckoo till the 4th day of July. Oh, build me a log cabin up on the mountain top up there so high, I can see my baby every time that pretty gal coming dancing on her. Dancing on her. So baby, you say you don't love me, well you won't tell me the reason why. Back to you, baby, you'll be crying. Yeah, you're gonna have that tear in your eye. Oh, Jack of Diamonds, oh, Jack of Diamonds. Yeah, I know you from days ago, but you robbed my pockets, oh boy, all my silver and my gold. She warbles when she flies, but she never called us cuckoo till the 4th day of July. Oh, till the 4th day of July. Just one thing that's puzzling ever since time first began. That's the love of a woman, a low down sorry man.
Jack Daniels, oh Jack Daniels. Yeah, I know you from days of old. Got my pockets, boy. Oh, oh my silver, my gold.
There you go. There you go.
In your own lyrics, do you draw from personal experience, observation, pure imagination, or a bit of each?
Pretty much always comes down to some symbolic meaning about life.
Ah,
Yeah.
so there's a deeper, there's a subtext?
Yeah, and it's funny, it's true. You can be writing something and then a year later it will happen to you. You know, something along the line of that. You know, it's almost like some subconscious radio station, you know, that's always there. And sometimes you hear a whisper of it, you know, and you just write it down. You don't know what it is, and sometimes it relates. The point is, it usually is self-referential.
So do your songs sort of reveal to you what they're about over time, or do you tell the songs what they're going to be about when you're writing them?
You know, sometimes it's usually, I mean, there's no one answer for that. I mean, songs come out of nowhere sometimes, and you have to be able to trust it, and that only comes with having done it a lot.
Yeah.
And that's the same with the guitar or something. You know, you have to do it you have to fall on your face so much and just puke out so much stuff for years in terms of, you know, just be willing to fail. You know, there's an old quote that says, "Fail harder." If you're not falling hard enough, boy, you're not trying. You know, if you're not really beating yourself up. So fast forward, another song will come out because you did something a year ago.
Ah,
You know, and you don't even realize that sometimes. But a lot of times it'll happen, and you're like, oh yeah, this is that thing, you know. And that's your mind will work on things. So if you treat everything as if it's like a perfect little child all the time, it's not going to happen. You have to just, you know, just constantly be sketching or whatever comes to your mind. Just write it down and don't be precious about it.
right.
So
That's a great lead into the next thing I wanted to ask you is, when you write a song, is there a point at which it's done, or is it a living, breathing thing that continues to change over time, in that if you play a song 5 years from now, you might play it differently?
I play it different every single time. And
Really?
But yeah, I mean, some songs in terms of the chord progressions will be the same.
Sure.
You know, it might have the same pretty much basic structure there.
Right.
But, you know, in terms of what my fingers are gonna do for that, call that the embellishments, I guess, or how I sing it. It's never gonna be the same. That's from an art background. I think the best thing you can do is to be present. You know, and when you're in the present moment, then all kinds of things like come to you.
Yeah.
Now, and you have to, of course, be willing to let it. Like I said, you might fail, you know, but if you've done it enough, it's like surfing. You know, you can, you know, you can ride off of that unexpected thing, and it's a lot better than, you know, getting on that wave and putting it in first, and you know how this wave's going to work. You know, it doesn't work that way. I don't think you get, but some songs come out though, and they come out and they're just stuck in time. You know, you know, play a little piece of this one, for instance.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with this thing. And like I said, they came from Oklahoma, and my grandfather was running whiskey a little bit too much, and we had to take off with the weed, and I wasn't there yet. I was just a whisperer in somebody's mind, but joined that old Dust Bowl refugee group and took off to California. And I'm the first generation that was born there. This one's about my grandfather, pretty much. It's called Churches, Bars, and Liquor Stores.
troubled mind again. Church is on the high hill, temptation down below. So tired of waiting around here to die to the hollow. I'm gonna go. All my brothers lend a hand, so rich and happy we'll be. Get ourselves that piece of land, so happy we could not see. Yeah, a federal man with a gun in hand, rapping at my door. 7 feet down on the state line, Lord, I'm not happy anymore. The churches, bars, and liquor stores, as far as my eyes can see. Oh, they'll wrap you up in trouble while you're just trying to set your soul free. Told my wife and child goodbye, I'll call you when I can. I'll send you a little man just to hold you once again. The range down, I walked straight on, friend, could not find. Made my way up to the bed of that cold black diamond mine. There are churches, bars, and liquor stores, as far as my eyes can see. Oh, they'll wrap you up in trouble while you're just trying to sail so free. You're just trying to set your soul free. Be different, but only pain and crosses high. Whiskey from the bottle, Lord, until the very day I die. Oh,
Your vocal style is informed by the things that you've listened to and the experiences that you've had, but you're untrained. Is your style something that you've developed over time, or do you essentially vocally approach music the same way now that you did 10, 20 years ago?
I mean, it's all, the only way you're going to do it is if you listen to a lot of stuff. You know,
Yeah.
you got to have this backlog of, so I've I've listened to almost every blues record available, or in all the field recordings.
Sure.
And, just at a time back then, I would just imbibe like crazy, and now I really don't listen to music that much. Every time I do, I get an idea for a song. So I just I'd rather spend my time writing music and practicing until I hear something I haven't heard before. But I usually don't go back a lot these days. So that's.
What kind of music do you listen to today?
I was such a student of the blues and things like that. I've gotten into mountain music a lot, for a while now. I respond to more of the picking, and I don't mean so much bluegrass, but old time music and mountain music and field records. Today I was listening to Gene Ritchie and Doc Watson, stuff like that. I might listen to something like sometimes I don't like to hear lyrics. I like to listen to a lot of avant-garde jazz and Davis and Coltrane and Mingus and Thelonious and stuff like that. Because it's so similar, if you can go da 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 da, then you can go, I got a dog, his name is Blue, So and so instead of getting bogged down by the meaning of words, sometimes I'll listen to, instrumental music so I can just think. Yeah.
As far as lyrics, how do you see what you do how do you see it fitting into the oral tradition?
Yeah, that's a good question because the oral tradition of America, I will just say that, I hopefully am adding my own personal experience, and I'm a modern man stuck in the BS of this world, right? So I'm not going to I'll find certain answers in the past, but everybody's got to figure out themselves in some way in this existence, right? And so a special treat of being a songwriter is that you can write about those things and add to that. And when I'm doing my stuff, I think someone can probably hear some vein of things that came before. If they know the folk process. So in that way, it's called the folk process, which is we're having a lot of trouble these days with that idea, that concept. Like Pete Seeger, for instance, kind of had a little bit of a problem with that, when Bob Dylan and them came around and wanted to change it up and make it a little bit different. He was like, oh, no, we got to do tradition the way tradition's supposed to be, and that's fine. But you got to keep the past alive. But the past is whispering of the future, So 50, 60 years from now, they're going to be happy that people did their own thing,
Sure,
like,
absolutely.
yeah.
There used to be some flowers next to the dirt road. Now it's just a fence and broken down fort. Smiles turn to straight lines and the town burns its boards. Thought I heard the mailman start to growl. Get inside the house. Get inside the house. Get inside this house. Inside this house. Don't play in the front yard and don't talk to that old man. Don't take a short walk down to the produce stand. Times are rearranged. Oh, why don't you understand that it's a game of cat and mouse? Get inside the house. Get inside the house. Get inside this house, baby. Get inside this house. Under shade of cars, yeah, there's something creeping slow. Might be looking for you, do they already know? Clean off that summer roof and tighten up for the squall. Pull up the pants, put on that pretty blouse. Get inside this house. Get inside this house. Yeah, get inside this house. Get inside this house. Well, cold gloomy falls on my window pane. Go unlock the door and pray for some rain. I know it's out there somewhere, lurking, creeping, looking at me, just like the devil that lurks and it prowls. Get inside the house. Get inside the house. Ah, inside the house, baby. Inside the house. Yeah, I heard that it's coming, and you're the same as me. Hide all your money and your foolish destiny. Bind up them floors and break down the plow. Break down that plow inside the house, inside the house, inside the house, baby, inside the house. Shine up your big guns and point them at the door. It's what the TV is for. I say good luck and all that we will allow, all that it will allow. Inside the house, it inside this house, it inside this house, hey, hey, inside this house, inside this house.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer for him. In a minute, I'm going to take a little break.
Being a visual artist, being a fine artist, and being a musician, what's the overlap? How are those things connected, or are they completely separate spheres in your existence?
I integrate them in terms of maybe illustrating something that I might be putting on an album or something, you know, for the lyric book or something. But, you know, where they cross is interesting is that when I went, say, to grad school to be authorized painter, I didn't play as much, you know, for about 2 years there, you know, and I thought I got better at painting. But then when I got back to music, I was better at it. It's like, you know, like I defragged my head, you know, in terms, and when I got back to that guitar, I was like, wow, this is like, so there's something very similar there. The molecules are the same thing. So I equate it like, you know, you watch de Kooning go, you know, that's the same as, it's a similar sort of mental process that you're doing. If you can't make a, you know, when I was in Japan, I go watch these guys with their ink, you know, it's like, it's a dragon walking over a mountain. That's amazing, you know. And so that, in terms of, as a visual artist, you start to train your body and mind to do what you want to do. And, you know, and if you're a painter, you're trying to do it in an eloquent way or something like that. Or you're aware that you're being eloquent or aggressive or staccato or something like that. So it's the same sort of process in music. So I think that helped me a lot.
Is it ever a case where you have a creative impulse and you have to stop and think, now, do I express this visually or do I express this through music? Or
No.
is it's always clear to which way
It
to
is
go?
now for me. I used to think I could illustrate my stuff, you know, and I just think music is the highest of the arts, and it's much more communicative to people. And you could do that. I mean, it renders something something immaterial to be material in your head. You know, it forms things in your head without, you know, words and sounds that are transitory.
Right.
Whereas, you know, visual art has the limitation of being just stuck in time. You know, there's no time in music. It's just, we're always here. So that, I think, is a pure source to try to communicate to humans.
Is it right that you had been making music for quite a long time before you made a proper album, so to speak?
Yeah. I mean, I was playing all those rock band stuff. I have all that recorded, but yeah, I got to. I was down in L.A. and put out something, and it was a funny story because I put that out on mp3.com when that came out. And everybody knows when that came out, or somewhere in that frame.
90s.
Yeah, mid right there.
Yep.
And they used to be hooked up with a distribution deal with Tower Records, right?
Oh, that's right. Way
Yeah,
back
it was a
when, yeah.
weird, beautiful situation, and
That
they got
didn't last.
the powers that be got rid of that real quick. Andrew, and it was order on demand. You know, people could order a CD, and they would make it and send it.
They'd burn it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
your distributor. It was
Yes.
fantastic, and I didn't know how fantastic until now. But that CD got, or those songs, whatever that was, got into a Tower Records in Osaka, Japan. And this guy picked it up, and he happened to have the only American folk country blues record store in Osaka, you know.
Really? I thought there'd
It's
be
just,
tons
it's
of
just
them.
filled with, it's this little room, and it's amazing. But fast forward probably a good 10 years or some, 8, 7, I don't know. But I get this email from a guy named Masato, and he goes, "Oh, like your music, we bring you to Japan for a 5-city tour." I'm like, wow, that's
Okay.
quite an email. Can you call me on the phone? And he's like, "No, I can't talk. My English is too bad to disrespect myself." And I couldn't find anything but a little thumbnail of him, and he's, you know, and I couldn't figure out what he had. It said it was a blues label over there, BSMF Records. And so I said, "Well, send me a ticket, and we'll see what he does." He sends me a round trip ticket to Tokyo, you know, and so I told my wife at the time, I said, "Well, I guess I gotta go, you know." And I hadn't even talked to the guy, you know, and that's the leap of faith you have to have in music. Yeah, the leap of faith you have to have in art, right? You can't do it without just like, and that was the moment where I said, "Okay, sure." And I'd go down to the airport, and 11 hours later, I end up in Tokyo.
Wow.
And there's all these faces, and then he pops through and says, "Joe, let's go." And jump in the car, and I'm watching the setting sun go down, and I see all these kids on the side of the street with Halloween costumes. And I'm like, "What's going on here?" And they're like, "It's Halloween." And I go, "Oh." And they love Halloween over there. So he takes me around to 5 cities, puts me up in the hotels, and I did 9 shows in 10 days. And
Wow.
it was fantastic. So
Would be a leap of faith if the label's called BSMF.
yeah,
Makes you wonder, what does that stand for?
I know
exactly?
that whole thing. I don't even know what it stands for, actually.
long gone, yeah, long gone. Yeah, this poor boy knows he done wrong. Train him on, yeah, train him on, baby, long gone. Yeah, when I walked down the station, night it felt like rain. Cold, chill heart, yeah, here he called my name. All that I trusted, yeah, turned its back on me. There's no one here to worry, yeah, this world is killing me. Ooh, long gone, yeah, long gone, baby. Yeah, just poor boy knows he done wrong. Train him on, yeah, I train him on. It's long gone. Yeah, I worked on the water, I even worked on the farm. All I have to show, buddy, is this muscle on my arm. Too much going up, not enough come back down, Lord. And hard luck loves trouble, so it's time to leave town. Long gone, yeah, long gone, yeah. Yeah, just a poor boy that knows he done wrong. Train him on, yeah, train him on. Long gone, yep, yeah. Put the hammer down. Yeah, when I was a young man, thought I knew it all. But here I am on this long gone train with nothing left to haul. Yeah, she cut up and told me a little more, let me know that things hit up and changed. Ooh, before I had to get up and go. Ooh, long gone. Ooh, long gone, boy. Yeah, just a poor boy that knows he done wrong. Train him on. Yeah, the train I'm on. Long gone. Yeah, it's long gone. Headed out of the station. Yes, sir. Long gone.
I wrote that here in Asheville a few years ago. I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I keep coming back to the spontaneous, the extemporaneous, the improvisational character of your music, sort of capturing lightning. Do you ever find you improvise, you come up with something, and you lose it, that it's gone, you're just like, well, that was really good, but there was no tape rolling anywhere, and it's gone?
Well, that's another great question too, because I have aside from doing all the clubs for so long in Portland and down the coast there, I had a band on the side named Woodbrain, and we had a deal with a label in Memphis. But I use that as a vehicle, as a jazz improvisational Delta rock unit. You know?
Wow.
And so to let it flow, and then we would record every night, right? Every show. And now that was a good thing because you knew you weren't going to lose anything,
Right.
And so you were free to just not even think about the recorder going. You were just like just going ape shit, you know, and then you'd go back and listen to it the next day, and we did that for years. And that's the beauty of that, is that you remember things.
And you find things.
But you also know that it's limited, unlimited.
Yeah.
It's there's no limit. Meaning, it's almost like you got to trust the muse, because the muse is always going to give you something.
Right.
If you sit there and overthink it, then it won't happen.
True.
So if you do lose something, I guess the way I justify this stuff, I actually think sometimes I go, you know, who had this? Oh, it was Merle Haggard had a dream, and he goes, oh, who is it? Yeah, he said, I saw my dad. My dad came and got me, and he goes, man, we got to hurry up. And he goes, why are we hurrying? And he goes, well, we got to go down to the Jimmy Rogers and Lefty Frizzell show, and you're opening. So we got to hurry. So I kind of, existentially, not to get weirded out about it, but I think I'm going to, run into these blokes at some point. And also that rounds me off to think that I'm not losing anything, right? Everything we go through in this life, we're not losing it. It's, we're going to either, somehow it's with us.
If it doesn't come out
Let's
the way
just
you want
leave
it
it at
now.
that.
Okay. Yeah.
It's part of what you did in this life. And so, que sera, sera.
Right.
Yeah.
This one's called Mercy in the Money.
Did you lose your place in line? Did you give Roosevelt a dime? Well, the mercy's in the money every time. Did you lose your place in line? Did you give Roosevelt a dime? Well, the mercy's in the money every time. Banker told the farmer, you better grow yourself a home, 'cause there ain't no business in friendliness. From here you're on your own. And John the merrymaker closed down the old Grange Hall. On the sideline began to climb the vinyl line so tall. Did you lose your place in line? Did you give Roosevelt a dime? Well, the mercy's in the money every time. Every man dies for his land. Here's trust, providence, to lend a hand. When the wind turns, will the engine burn on the vapors left in the sand? Oh, brother, up in glory, oh, it'll cost you plenty. That cold dream of blood is on the plank. Did you lose your place in life? Did you give Roosevelt a dime? Well, the mercy's in the money every time. Did you lose your place in line? Did you give Roosevelt a dime? Mercy's in the money, yeah, every time.
Thank you all. That's a new one there. That's on my brand new album. I have an album out now called Break Down the Plow. I was sitting out in Oregon watching a mule every morning across the way. And mules, they're cantankerous. I never spent much time with them before, and then he wouldn't give me the time of day. Every time I go over to the fence, right, he just starts making those noises and stomping his feet. But I could tell he was really smart. You could look in their eyes, and they're just cautious. They're just smart. Horses, I don't know if they're that smart sometimes.
Coin a phrase. Not to take the focus off you, but I know that you've worked with or come into close contact with a number of fairly notable artists. I thought I'd kind of run through a list of them, and you can tell me whatever you want to tell me about them. Let's start with Johnny Winter.
Yeah, John, I was coming out of that big rock phase, and my buddy had a party at his house, and he had Johnny Winter at Woodstock playing on a VHS tape. And I remember walking past that and just getting transfixed by that. Same as that guy that was opening for Armored Saint and Metallica. I was just like, whoa, what is that, man? And I heard, he was playing slide, right?
Yeah.
But he had that rock sensibility.
Very much so.
And so that's what got me about that, and led me later into rock. Electric blues and stuff. Freddie King or something has just got all that, you know,
Oh, yeah.
and stuff, and ZZ Top and things like those sort of crossover blues bands. But yeah, Johnny Winter, and then then I was on tour with him about 10 years later, and doing a string of shows, and it's a funny story because he's out there playing. He's got a guitar player with him who's a great guitar player.
His manager.
But Johnny is usually has a trio in the past. And I always love that, you know, Tommy Shannon on bass and him on ripping guitar and a drummer.
Right.
But he had an electric guitar player with him because Johnny was coming out of a lot of, you know, bad times, we'll call it.
Yes.
But Johnny was playing really good. And all of a sudden, I got off stage, right, and I'm sitting side stage watching him in this big theater, and the guitar player's pedal board goes out. He runs back with his pedal board, and the manager's back there next to me. And he's like, "Oh, you know," and I said, "Well, I got my amp in the back. If you want to go in the back, and we'll figure it out." So we go in the back, and we get it all figured out. And he goes back out there. The whole time I'm listening while they're sitting there with this massive amount of pedals. That's the lesson from that moment, and is that I hear Johnny out there just plugged into 2 Music Man amps with treble up to 10 and mids and lows down to 0, and
Right.
and volume at 10.
Yeah.
And that's it, you know. And he's just out there just ripping. He didn't need that guitar player. Sorry, Paul. But
Yeah.
yeah, so Paul runs back out there with his guitar, and then the manager's like, "Man, thanks, man. This happens all the time. I'm sorry, you know, I really appreciate that. And I'm going to show you something that most people don't get to see." And he opens up this little box, and it's got Johnny's childhood slide in it, cut from his handlebars of his bicycle when he was a kid.
Wow.
And that's what he played at Woodstock. And so I go, boom, and I grab it, put it on my finger. And he was all, whoa, he's all watching me thinking I'm going to do something with it. I'm just like, my gosh, I'm taking in the luster, and it's all pitted on the inside. I'm like, oh yeah, and I give it back to him, and then later on, I go out in the alley, and Johnny would not use the green room. He'd stay in his RV, and I saw Paul up there, and he waves me up. So I go over to the door, and Paul tells everybody in the motorhome to leave. And they all walk out, like 5 people walk out, and he lets me go up there. And so I just get to go hang with Johnny for about a half hour and just play guitar with him and stuff.
Did he talk much?
He didn't talk much. He has a big hat with his rattlesnake on it. And he
Yep.
set that down. And
Yeah. I've interviewed him a couple times, and it's very difficult to get.
yeah,
much
he just
out
kind of sit
anything.
there and look
Yeah.
at you with those albino eyes. It
Yeah.
made me pretty
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
He spoke a little more than, say, Brian Wilson, but not much more.
I said, "Sir, I really appreciate you. You know, you really helped change my life." And that's the same thing I said to Buddy Guy and Burt Yanch.
Oh.
And he said, "I hope for the good." And I said that to Buddy Guy backstage after opening for him and doing this show with him, and he said he looked at me and said, "Others did the same for me."
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's a nice response.
Yeah.
He's had plenty of practice of people telling him that, so he had time
Probably.
to think
Yeah.
of that.
He was ready. Yeah, he had a few responses.
That's a good response. That's very, very
Well,
good.
the beauty of that is that I think he probably, though, my point is that I think he knows we're both in the same, and he's always said that. He's the culmination.
Yes.
He owes his, you know, to the back pages before him.
He's
And
always
so-
been very clear about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So I think he was wholeheartedly knew what I was talking about.
What did Burt Yanch say?
I don't remember what he said. He said thank you. He was all zenned out, you know. Yeah, that's another. I wanted to see that guy so bad. He had not been in the States for so long, and I'm a freak about that man. And I was like, damn, I'm gonna go down and see him. He was playing one show. He was on tour with Neil Young, and on off nights, Neil's wife would open for him, right? And so it's at Mississippi Studios in Portland. I didn't have the $30 for a ticket. And I said, shit, I'm just going to go down there and hang in the bar in the front just to be around it. And I go down there, and it's packed. The bar's packed. And I didn't know anybody there, so I was just wandering around. And then I was going to go see if they had tickets left and see if there's any discount. And I'm walking towards the door, and this girl, just stoner chicks, is sitting there, and she kind of just gives me one of those things. Didn't know me. I go, okay. I knew what that meant. That meant you're free to go. And so I walked through the door and to an empty room, right? Seats empty. There's a stage. I walk to the middle of the room, and Bert Yanch walks out about 7 feet and walks over to me. And we sit there shaking hands and have a nice little talk, and he puts me in the front row.
Wow.
Yeah.
A personal audience.
Yeah,
That's
that was
pretty
pretty
cool.
It was.
So how about George Thorogood, known for being a bit of a character?
I don't know. That was the most drunk audience I've ever been in front of.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Those guys were really having a good time. And, yeah, so George likes his sweatband things on his
Yeah,
arms.
he does.
Yeah, up in the green room, he had them all laid out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He didn't go up to his green room. He had his $1 million bus out there. They just set it up in case he came up. Yeah.
Just in case. Wow.
R.L. Burnside.
Yeah.
You know, back in L.A., I was into him. When rare people would have known who he was. You know, he was first found in like '58, and I was just really a freak about that dude. And all of a sudden, I realized him and Junior Kimbrough were coming to a club down on the ocean down there.
Oh.
This is before everything started, before they took off.
Okay.
That night, Junior died. He didn't make it. So I took my mom and my dad and my wife at the time. That's 4 of us. We get there, and there was another couple there. That was it. So it was Paul Wine Jones and R.L. And he goes, my buddy died tonight, and they just went for it. And watched my wife dancing there alone in front of R.L. Burnside. That was pretty crazy. And then fast forward about 5-6 months or something, I was working at Disney at the time, and I took a long lunch and went up to Spaceland up in Silver Lake, and that's a rock club, just like graffiti all over the place. And I'm sitting there at the bar having a burger, and all of a sudden I turn around, and there's RL and this band loading in, and he comes over, and I'm like, it's just kind of, I says, R.L. Burnside, what are you doing here, man? And he looked around, he's like, I don't know. Just because the place didn't look like a standard fair he'd be at. That's why I was like, dude, I know you enough. You don't know me, but I know who you are. What are you doing here? And he's like, I don't know, man. And then T Model Ford was there, and I'm like, darn, I'm staying, man. And I stayed there the rest of the day. And then that night, that place packed, just crazy ravenous crowd. They'd put him on the Sopranos soundtrack. That's what took him off, like made him take off.
Yeah.
And so at that moment, everything changed. We were like the new form of blues called North Mississippi blues came to the world.
Right.
And yeah, it was like people jumping off the stage, and it was like crazy. These 20, 30 somethings just like getting hip to that sort of groove.
Wow.
Yeah, here's a little ditty from around here, though. This is about another type of tornado. It's called moonshine. Every once in a while in this sort of area or down there, there'll be somebody eventually that pulls something out and says he wants a little moonshine or something, some elixir, some debaucherous elixir.
older than the rocks and older than the bones. Mountain blues, there's nothing to lose. You can build your own road and pay your own dues. Now you can pay them on time across the state line. Be in Tennessee where they make the moonshine. Moonshine, it'll light up your mind, but it's dark as a dungeon down in the barks of pine. Well, a box of pine filled with old moonshine, 1 for a nickel, 2 for a dime. You take a drink, but it was singing all the time up on Sugar Mountain, losing your mind. Well, moonshine, it'll light your mind, but dark as a dungeon in a box of pine. 1 for a nickel, 2 for a dime. You wanna get to Sugar Mountain, buddy? Yeah, you gotta lose your mind. Well, now I heard tell there's a place you gotta see. You get so high you can walk across the sea, float through the sky with a gleam in your eye. First you gotta find the ocean. Now there's a rock on the right side of the road. Under the rock there's an old jawbone, and under that bone lay $1 down. Back in 10 minutes, boy, you can bring it on down. Well, moonshine, it'll light up your mind, but it's dark as a dungeon in a box of pine. Well, 1 for a nickel, 2 for a dime. You wanna get to Sugar Mountain, buddy? Oh, you gotta lose your mind. Lose your mind. Moonshine, it'll light your mind, but it's dark as a dungeon in a box of pine. Yeah, 1 for a nickel, 2 for a dime. Get to Sugar Mountain, boy. You gotta lose your mind. You gotta lose your what? You gotta lose your mind. Now, come on. Come on up there. Come on, boy.
Said, here I am. It's like when you find yourself in jail in the joint, you know, not the good kind. kind of not the same, but it's called a segue. Trying to fool you with an illusion of words. This one's called County Jail Blues.
When I wake up from this dream, I'll be the fastest thing you've ever seen. Hit the road and roll far away from here. No sympathy can set me straight, no big old world have to wait. Just count my time with every drop of tear. Well, I'm stuck in county jail, Lord, in Madison, doing this time place behind. Oh, leave this place behind. Leave this place behind. Now I can hear that warden bawling as I lay pining in my cell, and I can hear the wind squall beyond the wall. Wake up, boys, you know where it's at. Yeah, you got 10 minutes to eat, then you get yourself back. Oh, Lord, back in your hole like a mountain mole. Yeah, then you better root on down and do what you're told. Well, I'm stuck in county jail, alone and mad as hell, doing this time 'cause I lost my mind. And if I'd known it could go wrong, oh boy, it wouldn't take it very long. Well, hit the road, leave this place behind. Oh, leave it all behind. Oh, come on, baby. Now, boys, remember this. Oh, good times you'll surely miss. Sunny side's the only road to know. And stay away from trouble and strife. Oh, boy, it'll steal your life. Yeah, send you down to the dirt below. Well, I'm stuck in the county jail, alone and mad as hell, doing this time 'cause I lost my mind. Yeah, if I'd known it could go wrong, boy, it wouldn't take long. Hit the road, either way on. Yeah, hit the road, leave this place behind. Oh, don't leave this place behind. Look right now, you're far behind.
There you go. That's a true story. I didn't say that, but. We kept going till about 2 in the morning. I'm gonna go down south. Yeah, gonna stay till summer comes. Yeah, I'm gonna go down south. Gonna stay till the summer comes. Yeah, when that summertime comes, oh, turn my boat around and go back home. Yeah, going down the river, yeah, gonna sit down on the ground. Yeah, I'm going down the French Broad River, oh, gonna sit down on the ground. Let the waves of water, oh, wash the trouble down. Yeah, baby, oh baby, you gonna miss me when I'm gone. Yeah,
My baby, oh, you're gonna miss me. Oh, home in your arms. Yeah, you're gonna miss me, pretty baby. Yeah, I'm going back down by the river. Oh, they're gonna carry my rocking chair. Yeah, I'm going down the river. You're gonna sit on my rocking chair. Yeah, if the blues overtake this boy, walk away from there. Rock with there. Yeah, so I'm going down south. You're gonna stay till the summer comes. Won't go down south. Stay till the summer comes. Sometime comes, you know, go back home. Go back home. Go back home.
Thank you. That's a little bit of that North Mississippi Fred McDowell style right there, folks. Hey, what time we got? Hey, we want to take a little break right now? Is that about a good time? Yeah, I think we're going to take a little break right now, folks. I'll be right back, and I'll render up a whole bunch of other stuff for you. Have a drink. Enjoy yourself.